"Have you ever seen anything like that before?" one villager whispered to another, both staring at the spectacle before them. "Never in my life," the other replied, equally astonished. Before they could say more, a voice interrupted them. "Before we begin, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new stories." The giant iceberg, unlike the smaller fragments that typically melted away during their journey, had somehow arrived intact, sparking both excitement and curiosity among the townspeople. "It's a marvel that it made it here at all," they agreed, their usual chatter replaced by a shared sense of awe at the towering mass of ice before them. The sight left them puzzled. How had it reached their town without melting? Was it the largest iceberg anyone had ever seen? Or had it simply resisted melting more than usual? "It must have been huge to begin with," one person speculated, eyes fixed on the vast block of ice shimmering in the sunlight. "Or maybe it's got some magic keeping it from melting," joked another, though everyone knew that seemed highly unlikely. While most people were simply amazed by the size of the iceberg, one individual noticed something more. Peter, who had been watching intently through his binoculars, squinted, leaning forward as though searching for something hidden within the ice. His curiosity, sparked by the iceberg's size, deepened. There was something unusual about it, something no one else had yet spotted. Peter had been watching the iceberg for what felt like hours. His high-quality binoculars brought the icy expanse into sharp focus. He marveled at the way the sunlight danced across the surface, creating a mesmerizing display of blues and whites that seemed almost surreal. The sheer scale and beauty of the iceberg held him captivated, each glance revealing new patterns and hidden details within the ice. As his gaze shifted upward, toward the peak of the iceberg, he saw something that made his heart skip a beat. A sudden movement, a fleeting blur of color, caught his eye. "No way," he whispered under his breath, a surge of excitement rushing through him. Could it really be? He squinted harder, trying to make sense of what he had seen. In the middle of the desolate, frozen landscape, a splash of vibrant color stood out, starkly contrasting the monochrome world around it. The sight sent a rush of thrill through Peter's veins. For a moment, he was certain something was moving with purpose across the iceberg, though the details were still unclear. Whatever it was elusive. After a few seconds, the movement vanished, slipping silently to the far side of the iceberg. Peter stood frozen, binoculars still pressed to his eyes, feeling a mix of confusion and excitement. What had he just witnessed? The brief glimpse only fueled his curiosity, leaving him desperate to uncover what lay hidden within the ice. How could something, or someone, survive out here, stranded on a slowly drifting iceberg? The thought seemed almost impossible, yet it made Peter even more determined to find out. Why would anything choose to be at the top of the iceberg? It seemed the most dangerous spot, especially considering the iceberg's steady melt. But despite the clear risk, there it was, a sign of life, where none should have been. The discovery intrigued Peter in a way he hadn't anticipated. It was a mystery, one that stirred something deep within him. He couldn't just walk away. He thought about telling someone, but quickly dismissed the idea. Who would believe him without proof? Besides, he was starting to wonder if he had simply imagined the movement. It would be easy to return to his daily life, to let the mystery go. But Peter wasn't one to shy away from the unknown, especially not when it offered the possibility of adventure. The iceberg had become more than just an anomaly. It had become a challenge, a puzzle that called to him. In a town where excitement was rare, Peter was always on the lookout for something that could break the monotony of his life. This was it, the mystery he craved, and he was more than ready to answer its call. Peter made up his mind. He would keep his discovery to himself and investigate the iceberg alone. He could borrow the small speedboat from his brother-in-law, who had always been willing to lend it to him. With his plan in place, Peter headed to the local store to buy ice climbing gear, just in case he needed it. When he placed the gear on the counter, the store clerk raised an eyebrow, clearly puzzled. Ice climbing gear wasn't something people typically bought in a town where life moved at a slower pace. The shopkeeper's expression quickly turned from curiosity to concern as he asked, "You're not seriously thinking of climbing that beast, are you?" Peter could sense the skepticism in the shopkeeper's voice. "That's not just daring," the man continued. "It's madness. Do you have any idea how dangerous that iceberg is?" Peter nodded, acknowledging the truth in the shopkeeper's words. Deep down, he knew it was a risky endeavor. Climbing an iceberg was no small feat, and it came with a host of unpredictable dangers. But he was determined. "I have my reasons," Peter said firmly, his resolve clear. "I'm going to climb that iceberg, gear or no gear. But without the right equipment, it's going to be even more dangerous." There was a moment of silence, and Peter could see the shopkeeper weighing his options. Finally, the man sighed, a flicker of understanding crossing his face. Reluctantly, he agreed to sell Peter the climbing gear, recognizing the determination in his eyes. Once home, Peter wasted no time. He was filled with anticipation for the adventure ahead. His brother-in-law had already assured him that the boat key would be ready for him, and there was no question that security would be the least of his concerns. No one in the quiet town ever worried about someone borrowing a boat. But just as Peter was about to leave for the harbor, a sharp knock at the door interrupted him. His heart skipped a beat as he hurried to answer. Who could be visiting him at such a crucial moment? When he peered through the window, his stomach twisted. A police car was parked outside his house. It didn't take long for Peter to piece together what had happened. The shopkeeper must have called the police after their conversation. The weight of the situation hit him. He realized he was facing a choice: open the door, talk to the police, and abandon his daring plan, or risk confrontation and continue on his path. The thought of giving up his adventure before it even began was unbearable. The iceberg had become more than just a curiosity to Peter. It was a challenge, a dream he was determined to pursue. Whatever the risk, he couldn't walk away now.